Welcome back. We continue our coverage now of a topic that's been lighting up the skies and stirring up public concern: the mysterious drone sightings all over New Jersey. To shed light on the situation, we're joined by John Wisniewski, who is the former New Jersey State Assemblyman, a key figure in the 2017 gubernatorial race and vice chair of the New Jersey Fire Safety Commissioner. Thank you so much for being with us, John. Can you explain the significance of the New Jersey Fire Safety Division's recommendations regarding downed drones?
So obviously, it's been a concern for many people. There's a lot of uncertainty about the origin. Are they all drones? Are they manned aircraft? But in the event that a drone fell someplace, what the Division of Fire Safety did is issue guidelines for first responders on how to respond. And a lot of them are really grafted from response criteria for electric vehicle fires. Drones carry lithium-ion batteries, which, if they catch on fire, can be hazardous in terms of the intensity of the fire, as well as the fumes and the chemicals that are contained in it. And so what the Division of Fire Safety wanted to do is to make sure all of the first responders in the state had some protocol, some guidelines on what to do. Not that it's a one-size-fits-all, but there are some best practices that are encompassed in that advisory that the Division of Fire Safety put out.
So basically, what should people do if they happen to see a downed drone? I mean, there are so many out there, it's inevitable that one of them is going to come down.
Well, that's the interesting thing. It's kind of like the search for extraterrestrial life. Is there are lots of drones out there. I don't think a lot of us could say we've ever come across a downed drone. Not to say we won't. I think the bottom line for anybody who might come across a downed drone: don't be curious. Don't figure out what it is by going and messing with it yourself. Call your first responders. Call the police department. They'll probably dispatch the fire department or, say, a hazardous response team, and they'll come out and look at it.
Well, with drones appearing over various parts of the state, what are your thoughts on the potential risks to public safety at large? Are we worried about potentially one of these drones falling on a house or a car?
I think the bigger concern is that we are in the midst of one of the most intense air traffic patterns probably in the world, with Newark, LaGuardia, JFK, Stewart, Teterboro, all having flights crossing the state of New Jersey. A lot of those flights are now descending into these airports. They're at lower altitudes than they traditionally travel at. A lot of these drones can be at the same altitude. My concern is that the airspace that manned aircraft, commercial flights are traversing be kept clear of drone traffic. If there's a way that can be policed effectively, that's where government response should be, because the first time a drone gets ingested into an aircraft engine and causes perhaps an emergency landing or worse is when there's really going to be a question about accountability. How could this happen? How could it be allowed to happen? And so I think there's a need for perhaps more precise regulation in terms of those drones being used near commercial airspace.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of something the size of a dining room table or an SUV in the landing path, say, of a commercial jet could be absolutely catastrophic. And as you mentioned, this is the busiest airspace from Philadelphia to Massachusetts, the busiest airspace probably in the world outside of maybe a Tokyo or a Mexico City. That's just a terrifying prospect. Well, there was a recent incident, in fact, at the Lowe's parking lot in Hillsborough, where authorities had spent hours looking for a possible crash zone. What does that tell us about the challenges in responding to these incidents?
Well, aircraft, for instance, a commercial aircraft or even recreational aircraft usually have digital communication devices, transponders, that enable responsible parties such as air traffic control or first responders to figure out where they are, where they've gone. I don't know that the technology has or the regulations have come to that point where every drone has a transponder that third parties can locate them. So I think this is an evolving area of technology and government relations and government regulation that needs to have some very clear-headed people sit down and think about what can be done better. One of the other factors that is problematic in this is that when all of us look up into the night sky, we might see a drone. We might be mistaking something that's a fixed wing aircraft for a drone. And sometimes the collection of data that's being complained about is perhaps not as crystal clear or as enlightening as we'd like. And so there's a lot of challenges to this being addressed. But I do think that for the most part, what we've seen so far is a lot of concern about drones. We've only heard of one report with a drone in a parking lot. On average, drones are 20, 30 pounds. They're not all the size of SUVs or dining room tables. Those are military grade, governmental grade. And I think what we've heard from the FBI and the state police is that these are not foreign entities or anything of a security concern.
Well, what steps do you think should be taken then to educate the public about the drones, the potential dangers they pose, as we've been talking about, in terms of misinformation or panic? You just mentioned some people may think that a smaller jet, say, might be a drone. And what is the message you may have to New Jersey residents regarding, say, drone sightings and official recommendations? Should they all be calling the FBI?
Well, I think there's probably a point at which it becomes overwhelming and is probably counterproductive. I think that if you have a concern that a drone is somehow going to impact your safety, it's coming near your home, it's buzzing near your body, and you're concerned about the safety of yourself or your family, then by all means you should call the local police, local first responders. But if you're just driving down the road or you're walking through the neighborhood and you happen to see a drone off in the distance, I'm not sure it's something that requires you to automatically get on the phone or start reporting its whereabouts, unless it has something immediately potentially affecting your safety or the safety of your family or your neighborhood.
Well, thank you very much, John. We appreciate all the advice and, of course, from your experience, all the very, very needed knowledge. We appreciate you joining us tonight on Special Report.
Glad to be with you.